Hello everyone, welcome to today's clay crafting channel. In this fast-paced life, being able to calm down and create a vivid little object with your own hands is an incredibly therapeutic experience. Today, I'm going to guide you step by step from scratch to create a fairy tale like adorable figure, a cute girl holding a little unicorn. The whole process doesn't require complicated molds, just a pair of skillful hands and a little patience. Get your super light clay ready. Let's begin. A smooth and textured base is key to success in creating any beautiful clay painting. Prepare a 10 cm square wooden board. If your clay has become a little dry and hard from exposure to air, don't throw it away. Here's a little trick: squeeze a tiny bit of hand cream into it and knead and stretch it repeatedly. The oils from the hand cream will quickly penetrate the clay, instantly restoring its softness and increasing its elasticity. Place the softened clay on a table and roll it out into a sheet of moderate thickness using a rolling pin. Next, take a pen, dip the pen handle into white glue, and apply it evenly to the wooden board. Beginners should be especially careful not to miss any corners or edges, otherwise the clay will easily curl up after drying. Gently place the clay sheet on the wooden board. There will definitely be air bubbles trapped inside. Use the rolling pin to slowly roll and press from the center outwards, squeezing out the air little by little to ensure a perfect fit between the clay and the board. Finally, use the rolling pin to firmly roll around the edge of the board to cut off any excess clay. To make the base less monotonous, you can use a small, stiff bristled shoe brush to repeatedly press the clay surface, creating a rustic texture. After preparing the base, we'll start by working on the very bottom layer of the doll's hair. Today, we'll mix a gentle, light khaki color. Take a large amount of white clay and add a touch of yellow-brown. If you want a flesh toned skin tone, add more white. If you want a darker hair color, add more brown. Roll the mixed khaki clay into a long strip, flatten it, and use a rolling pin to slightly spread it out, making sure to retain some thickness, not too thin. Next, use scissors to cut wider sections of hair at the bottom. Don't cut them too finely, otherwise it will be difficult to work with later. After cutting, pinch the end of each section with your fingers to create a small point, and then roll it upwards. This creates a hair base with natural curves and volume. Attach it to the lower part of the wooden board, leaving ample space for the head above. When making figurines, proportion is the most important thing. To ensure that the figurines you make are the same size every time, I strongly recommend using a clay extractor. First, take a piece of skin-colored clay with a 22 hole to make the body. Knead the clay until smooth and roll it into a cylinder, slightly flattening the top. Use your fingers to push and pinch the neck area inwards to create a small neck shape. Attach the body to the center of the wooden board, leaving the neck about 1 cm long. Cut off any excess with a tool. If you prefer a swan neck, you can leave it slightly longer, entirely up to personal preference. Next, we'll create the head. Take some skin-colored clay through a 37 hole. The first step with the clay is always resting it, which means repeatedly kneading it. First, roll it in your palm into a perfectly smooth ball without any cracks or air bubbles. If there are any air bubbles left on the face, the doll will be disfigured once the clay dries. After removing the air bubbles, flatten it with a clay flattener, keeping the thickness to about 1.5 cm. Place the head above the neck and adjust the angle. If you want the doll to look more playful, you can tilt her head slightly. After placing the doll, gently smooth the gap between the head and neck with your fingers. Now for the main event, use a rolling pin to gently roll back and forth on the lower center of the face. From the side, this will create a natural indentation, which defines the doll's eye sockets and brow bones. Then, take a 1.1 cm diameter round tool and press vertically downwards into the indentation to create 2 round eye holes. Note that the depth on both sides must be the same, and the distance between the 2 eye holes should be approximately the width of 1 eye. Ordinary clay eyes lack luster, so today we'll use glass shards and gel polish to create a pair of shimmering, pinkish-purple starry sky eyes for our doll. Prepare to 8 round glass pieces and secure them to the table with a kneaded eraser to prevent slipping. We'll use a 3-layer coloring method. First, for the brightest highlight of the eye, Choose a glitter gel with abundant shimmer and glitter, and apply it vertically downwards to the bottom of the glass piece. Second, for the middle transition color, we'll use a light pink Katy gel. The fine shimmer in the Katy gel will give the eyes a deep, pearlescent sheen. Third, for the darkest top area, we'll apply a deep maroon purplish red. After applying the gel polish, don't use a brush. Instead, take a toothpick and gently stir it in a circular motion at the boundary between the pink and purple colors to blend them naturally. Then, slowly blend the color downwards towards the highlight and finally outline upwards from the highlight. This creates a layered, starry sky effect. Cure the gel polish completely under a UV lamp. When you peel it off the eraser, you'll see the glass refraction making the fine shimmer inside sparkle. It's incredibly dreamy. Before installing the eyes, apply a base makeup to the doll. Use a powder brush to apply a mixture of light and dark pink powder along the edge of the eye socket, creating a rosy hue. Then, using a 9-hole, take 2 lumps of white clay to represent the whites of the eyes. Fill the eye sockets and press them firmly with a stick, smoothing the whites and the edge of the eye socket to blend them seamlessly. Next, apply a little primer to the whites of the eyes and press the glass eyes you just made into place. Pay close attention to the orientation during installation. The highlight should be vertically downwards, and the dark purple should be upwards. Use a tool to press repeatedly with light pressure. Do not try to do it all at once. If you press too hard and make the angle wrong, it will be difficult to remove and redo. Pressing the eyes will cause slight deformation of the facial edges after installation. Gently push the contours of the cheeks back with your hands. With the eyes sparkling, the details of the facial features also need to be addressed. Take a very small amount of skin-colored clay, roll it into a small ball, and attach it between the eyes, level with the lower lash line. This creates a delicate, pert little nose. Take a slightly larger amount of skin-colored clay, flatten it, and cut it in half with scissors. Shape it into a crescent shape, wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. This is the ear. Attach the ear to the intersection of the extended lines of the nose and eyes, and use a cone-shaped silicone pen to press in the inner part of the ear to create the indentation detail of the earlobe. After completing the facial structure, we begin coloring. Using a powder brush, we sweep blush from the side of the face down to the cheeks, and also apply a touch of color to the bottom of the neck and inside the ears, instantly giving the doll a healthy, rosy complexion. Next comes the acrylic painting step, which demands a very steady hand. Prepare an extremely fine liner brush and brown acrylic paint. Before painting, lightly draw a guide line directly above the eye to mark the position of the eyebrows. Dip the liner brush in paint and draw the lower lash line below the eye. There's a secret to drawing lower lashes speed. Touch the clay with the brush dip, mentally count 3, 2, 1, and quickly draw 3 main lashes outwards. Then add a crossover secondary lash next to each main lash. Don't hesitate. If the direction is right, the effect will be natural. While drawing, draw the eyebrows on the guideline and outline the double eyelid crease above the eye socket. Wash your paintbrush, switch to reed paint, and draw a happy U-shaped smiling mouth below the nose. You can apply 2 coats for a more saturated color. Then use a tiny bit of white paint to draw an arc along the upper edge of the mouth. This will represent the doll's pearly white teeth. Finally, let's add voluminous upper eyelashes. Take some black super light clay and knead it into a thin strip with pointed ends. Pinch one end into a curved shape, slightly dampen the area above the eye socket with water, and then attach the eyelashes. Trim off any excess length, use a flat scissor to help press them firmly, and curl the outer corners of the eyelashes upwards to set them, instantly creating a fairy tale-like look. After completing the facial features, we continue with the hair using khaki clay. First, roll an oval shape with pointed ends and place it in the center of the top of the head as the upper crown, pressing it outwards towards the back of the ears. Use a tool to smooth the hairline from top to bottom, allowing the hair to blend naturally with the forehead. Draw a dot directly above the center of your forehead. This is our mid-parting reference point. Next, we'll make extensive use of the clay stretching technique. Hold one end of the clay with your left hand and the other end with your right, and quickly stretch it outwards. You'll then have a clay strand that's thick at both ends and extremely thin in the middle. We'll start by attaching the hair from the very back. Secure one end of the strand to the center parting and follow the curve of the skull downwards at an angle, cutting off any excess length. Following this radial path, spread the hair strands one by one across the head, adding new hair between each strand. After laying down the base layer, we'll work on the sides to frame the face. Pull out thin strands, starting from the center part, and curl them inwards to cover the side of the face, pinching the ends to a point and curling them inwards. Above the ears, add 2 small braids, one curled clockwise outwards and the other counterclockwise inwards, breaking the rigid symmetry. To make the hairstyle more lively, we'll add a few unruly wispy strands on top. Pull out extremely fine strands and let them drape across the existing hair, randomly bending them into lively curves, hiding the seams deep within the hair. Friendly reminder: the clay pulling process will take a long time. Any unused clay must be placed in the box and sprayed with a little water to keep it moist, otherwise it will easily dry out and crack. Clothes make the man, so let's make a dark blue and white patchwork dress for the doll. First, prepare a vintage deep blue. Take ordinary blue clay, add an equal amount of black, and then add a very small amount of red. After kneading thoroughly, you will get a deep, textured classic blue. Roll it out, cut out a straight strip, wrap it around the chest area of the doll, cut off the excess, and pinch it tightly at the back. We'll use pure white clay for the skirt. Roll the white clay into a long, thin sheet, because thin sheets tend to stick together easily. Here's a key technique: evenly coat both sides of the clay with baby powder. After coating, fold it like a paper fan, flattening it once forward and then once backward, repeating this process to create a long, pleated skirt. Although the folded skirt is quite thick, we'll press the top of the skirt inward to gather the pleats, then use a blade to cut the top flat. Attach the flat and end to the bottom of the dark blued op and use a tool to press the seam firmly. To cover the seams at the top and bottom of the dress, we cut to thin strips from the dark blue clay we just used. Cross them and attach them to the hem as decoration. Then we cut a slightly thicker strip to serve as a belt and wrapped it around the waist. Finally, we folded a delicate dark blue bow and attached it to the back. Finally, we'll add arms to the doll so it can hug the unicorn. Take some skin-colored clay, roll it into a cylinder, and cut it in half. Flatten the wrist area to prepare for shaping the fingers. Using very fine scissors, first make a diagonal cut to separate the thumb, then make 3 parallel cuts from top to bottom to separate the other 4 fingers. At this point, the fingers are still square-shaped, so use a knitting needle or toothpick to press inwards at each finger gap to make each finger distinct. Next, smooth the back of the hand diagonally to eliminate the sharp edges left by the scissors. Flatten and smooth the area between the thumb and forefinger to create a fleshy texture. Slightly bend the thumb towards the palm and give the other 4 fingers a natural grip curve as well. After confirming that both hands are the same size, we determine the arm length. Measure from the doll's shoulder to the waist, subtract 1/3, and the remaining length is the distance from the wrist to the elbow. Bend the clay at the elbow, ensuring the upper arm is slightly longer than the forearm. Trim off any excess length at the shoulder, and use a small tool to firmly attach the arms to the sides of the doll's body, posing it in a slightly raised, ready-to-hug posture. As a final touch, we cut a trapezoid out of white clay, wrap it around the neck to make a fresh little white collar, and attach a tiny blue bow to the center of the collar. And there you have it, our super healing unicorn girl is born. Watching the colorful clay transform into a vibrant little sprite in your own hands, the sense of accomplishment is unparalleled.